Good.
Oh, we're live.
Okay, we're live.
Yeah.
So if you want to turn your volume down, Davey, and
Right.
keep an eye on the chat. Okay, just by way of a brief introduction, we're doing a very soft, casual intro into this, as we normally do. Davey's on his phone with very good reason today. We'll let him get away with that today, won't we, Davey?
I'm always on the phone.
Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for coming along. This is a live stream of the video we're going to put out, and we are incredibly lucky today. Honoured would be the right word. Mr. Julian Sprung is joining us. Julian, to anyone who has been in the reefing hobby or in the reefing world for more than 30 seconds and doesn't live under a stone, is somewhat of a stalwart of the hobby, very well known to everyone, and a fine ambassador for it, Julian, if I might say.
Yes, he is.
Without further ado, thank you very much for coming along, Julian, and it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
So, Julian, you found I was very low. I just want to see for anybody else listening to the stream, can they hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can see your toggle.
Yeah, I just want to see if anybody on YouTube is actually seeing this, you know.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people coming along.
Yeah, there's people starting to come in.
Lovely. Yeah, we decided to do it live as well to give people the opportunity to get involved and ask some questions and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For those who have been in the hobby 5 minutes and who do live under rocks, Julian, give us a little intro for yourself. What do you do? Who are you? And all of that kind of general stuff, just briefly.
Sure. So I am president of the company Two Little Fishies, which I founded together with a partner back in 1991, before many of your viewers were born. But yeah, I've been keeping reef aquariums since the early 1980s. And, it's a passion for me. I enjoy not only marine aquariums, but also freshwater aquariums. And yeah, fate had me end up here when I graduated from the University of Florida in 1988, I already had a job for a company very much like Two Little Fishies. It is a long story that'll end up on YouTube one of these days, and did that for a couple of years, and then got fired from that company and moved.
We won't ask why.
Yeah.
We won't ask why.
That'll be in the YouTube story too.
That's for the book.
Yeah, nothing too shocking, but it had to do with the magazine article that I wrote. I think it had something to do with that, where I basically had said that some of the equipment that we were manufacturing was probably not necessary for success with a reef aquarium.
Right.
Yeah, that was probably how I started on my way out. But in any case, I moved back to Miami, and just fate happened that somebody was looking to make a video about reef aquariums, and he approached me and said, "Hey, I've seen you talk at the local aquarium society. I read your Reef Notes column. I think, maybe you could do this video. What do you think about it?" And I said, "Sure." And we did that, and Two Little Fishies was born. So, yeah. And ever since then, we've just, grown, developed new products, published books.
And what was your first product? What was the first product that Two Little Fishies brought to market?
The first product was that video, which I have here. Yeah.
Oh, he's gone to
Old copy right there.
Oh, wow.
Is that a VHS?
It's going to be
It's VHS.
Yeah, it's a VHS. Look at that.
Fabulous.
I don't know if viewers even know what that is.
Oh, some of us do. Some of us do.
I certainly do.
Yeah. It's a good
So in 1991, these were really a popular thing, and we marketed this thing. I think it was $75 or $79, something like that.
Right.
That's a lot of money. And it was educational. It was to get people, basically informed on the basic principles of how to set up a reef aquarium.
Right.
And most of our sales were direct to pet stores. We did also sell, there was no such thing as online. right? We advertised in a magazine and people saw the ads and they would call. Back in that day. You'd have an 800 number, you'd call and place your order.
Right.
You didn't get on your phone and and place the order, with your fingers or on your computer. But anyway, we sold a lot of them, and it was a successful product for a number of years.
Mm.
And the stores who had the product, they would play it on a television, and people would watch it, or they would rent it out. And when people would rent the thing, they'd come back and they were ready to buy equipment. So it was a good marketing tool for the shops.
Mm.
And the timing was just right. So, there's I forget which cartoon. It may be one of the old Disney or possibly a Bugs Bunny. I remember seeing a cartoon where a guy is walking, and as he's walking, the path is sort of forming in front of him. It
Sure.
wasn't there a moment ago.
Yep.
And it was kind of like that. We created this thing, it didn't exist, and it was successful. And then only a few years later, we came out with the Reef Aquarium Volume 1. And, sure, there were books about aquarium keeping. There were even books about keeping invertebrates and even reef aquariums, but they were not very comprehensive. There was a lot of information missing. And it was just the right time to
Right.
publish a book like that. And so that, of course, helped propel the company forward. And it led to us developing a lot more products, some of which we imagined doing as I and my co-author Charles Delbick were writing the book. So it just something that organically happened. We educated people, informed them, and then were able to develop products that made the hobby easier to do. And one of the things that I was doing even when I was in college before my career was setting up a reef aquarium in a very small tank,
Right.
a nano.
Mm.
And right from the beginning, I was emphasizing how really easy that was to do, and how I recommended that people do that because their investment was so low to get started and then
Challenging,
prove
though.
out.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Well, hang on, but it's challenging whatever size you do.
True.
And when I was promoting that back in the 1990s, even up to the early 2000s, I would say that in the UK and in Europe, I got a lot of blowback. I was really criticized that I should not be doing that, really irresponsible, because I know that I think in both regions, there were probably even laws, regulations that told the pet stores, no, you don't do a marine aquarium in anything smaller than a certain size.
Right.
In the US, there's really sort of a rule of thumb that I was up against. And so people would say, well, yeah, Julian, you can do it because you're an expert, but this is not really the right way to, tell people, beginners, to do it. But I'm glad to say that right now the industry has totally embraced starting with nanos, and nano
Very much so.
aquariums are everywhere. Imagine in Ireland too.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can't put a killer whale in a nano,
Yeah.
nor can you you can't put a yellow tang in a nano.
Yep.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that you can't put in there, but there's so many things that you can put in there.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to start. And once you've had success with it, then sure, you can move up to a bigger tank, and you've developed a level of confidence and expertise, experience to know how to do that and make the decision.
Very true. Very true. Learning, getting your training wheels on something that's likely to be quote unquote more difficult.
Yeah.
Means that when you upgrade and go for something bigger, it's almost like you may find that a little bit easier with the knowledge and experience of a small tank.
Right.
And nanos are cropping up
and
even
that-
more in freshwater as well, aren't they? I mean, right across the
Correct.
aquarium hobby, everything seemed to get bigger and bigger and bigger for a time, and now it seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Nanos have really been embraced in the last couple of years.
Yep.
Yes. And so that was 30 years of me just beating that drum, and now it's just commonplace, and it's great.
Very good.
And lots of people. So I'm glad, you introduced me and you said, introduce yourself. I think that those are some key things of me. In other areas, I've always tried to make the reef aquariums as simple as possible. They can be more complex. I know that. In the books, Charles and I surely talked about great levels of complexity in technology. And I find that wonderful too, but I've always focused on, what's essential to be successful.
Yep.
And, keys in biology. People also know me for growing mangrove trees, seagrasses, macroalgae, things that are, people consider more natural type aquariums. I like all of it, whether it's the SPS and sticks or LPS corals, soft corals, which I can see you have some nice ones in your tank behind you.
Large
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
I love all of it.
Mm.
So there's no value judgment, but people kind of associate me with growing mangroves and creating that sort of a habitat,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
like to do, display type refugium attached to it.
Yeah, I like that. I was watching a video of yours on YouTube where I think you were showing someone around your house and your personal tank, your large tank there with that gorgeous emperor angelfish in it. And you had a very nice macroalgae tank on the go as well,
Right.
which you showed people some gorgeous reds and greens and colors in there. I think the planted saltwater aquarium is one that is going to take off one day. I think,
Yeah.
and you're already doing that in great style, but I think that's going to rise in
It-
popularity. We're seeing it a bit in the shop as well.
it-
People looking for that sort of thing.
we've been seeing that in the US for the past several years. And I just want to put that into context. I mean, I don't know whether you're aware, when the reef aquarium hobby began, at least in the USA, and I think it was the same in the UK and in the Netherlands and Germany. This would have been in the 1980s when
Yeah.
it really started to take off from nowhere. Macroalgae was much more a focus. There were fewer corals available. So live rock was available, and you put live rock under bright illumination, you're going to get some macroalgae.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People were familiar with caulerpa and had been growing it in aquariums for many decades. And then some hobbyists kind of specialized in collecting different species of caulerpa. And then they looked at other macroalgae. And then along came friends of mine, Alf Nilsson and Swain Fossa, and they published their series of books on reef aquarium keeping. And they pointed out that, look, if you really want to grow the SPS reef building stony corals, look at the reef. You're not going to see much macroalgae. You're going to want to have herbivores in the tank, and they're going to graze that down and give the corals the room to grow. And so the initial reef aquariums full of macroalgae became sort of taboo. Everybody focused on growing the corals, and the macroalgae went away. And I blame my friends. What's true is macroalgae are beautiful. And
Yeah, they are.
they're also, there are many macroalgae that are really easy to grow, but to make a balanced macroalgae tank with many different species is a bit of a challenge. It's kind of like doing a freshwater planted tank.
Yeah.
And it does take some skill
Yeah.
to get the balance of nutrients right, and to aquascape it. I really love it, seeing that develop as a hobby, and you can tell by the forums that have developed online, as well as the Facebook groups, how there is a real passion for it. So, on the one hand, you have the people who are growing algae in algal filters to purify water, whether it's a refugium or an algal turf scrubber or a ketomorpha reactor. But the other hand, you have the people who are creating displays for it.
Yeah.
When you visit farms nowadays, they tend to do both. They cultivate the macroalgae, and by doing that, they're filtering the water
Yeah.
that is part of their coral cultivating system.
Yeah.
And I really get a kick out of seeing that as well.
Yeah, but
Mm.
yeah, I think it's the idea that
So
everyone wants something beautiful to look at in this
Yeah.
hobby, and the popularity of refugiums from a filtration point of view is evident and has been, although probably slightly lesser these days with the rise of other filtration methods and concentrating on trace elements maybe. But the idea that you've got this little ecosystem separate to your main display, and why not make it look nice as well? Display refugiums are something that are beautiful, and then from there you go, well, why do a display refugium? Why not just do an entire macroalgae tank?
right.
It's
I
lovely.
tell you, another cool little story. There's a macroalga that has really gone all over the place. I imagine that it is there in Ireland now. It's a Halamenia species, and I think they call it atomic broccoli. Do
Okay.
you see that
Okay.
one?
No, I don't know this one.
It, oftentimes, common names are different in different regions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's a red macroalgae, roughly, and it's got beautiful sparkly color on it.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
and I imagine you've seen it, and
Yeah.
it grows really fast. It ends up being traded at all kinds of frag swaps. But I can tell you
Yeah.
that I originally got that from a farm here in Florida called Oceans Reefs and Aquariums.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably heard of ORA.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, and they just gave me a little cutting, and it has two different forms. Um, and so one form is sort of a brownie uh, thing, and not particularly stunning looking. And that was the form they gave me. And it grew for a while in one of my tanks. And then it went to the alternation of generations. It went to the next form, which is this popular one, which I believe is a vegetative form. And it was stunning, beautiful thing. Colin Ford from Coral Morphologics saw it in my tank, and he said, "Oh, I'd like a piece of that." And he started growing it and brought it to frag swaps, and it just ended up in lots of different coral farms here in the U.S. And now it's literally everywhere. And I know I've seen it when I've gone to the EU.
Right.
Um, that took really only about 2 years to happen from just a little bit
Wow.
to
Yeah.
and went from Colin and then went to a bunch of people, and it just everywhere. It was really interesting to see how quickly a beautiful plant could spread throughout the hobby.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't think it entered any other way.
Right.
So
It's great when stuff like that
fast.
happens. When you see corals that come out of tanks and you can literally almost trace the origin of them back to one particular
Yes,
coral grower or shop in America, one particular graft or one particular
Yeah.
find, and before
right.
you know it, it's everywhere.
You
It's
look,
got several names and
right. Look at what Jason Fox has done. What he
mm,
brand names them.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
Raja Rampage is
yep,
like a totally distinctive coral, and it was not coming into the hobby.
Yeah.
He brought it in and then started selling it with his name, and now you see it all over the place.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
Fast growing beautiful coral.
Yeah.
wonderful.
So yeah, I love
Very
that
good.
stuff.
Very good. Shall we, Davey? I think you probably got a couple of questions for Julian. Should we move on to one of those? Grab one or
Yeah.
two of
Hold on.
those?
Hold on.
Is that okay?
Somebody had
Yes.
written a message. Do you want? Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. So Duke Hazard. Hello, everyone that has been tuning in and been talking away. Okay, so Duke has written a question, and this is one of the biggest disappointments when it comes to it for someone to start a reef keeping, getting the wrong advice. Sure, you can put such and such in your nano tank. Oh, the fish died. I think that's back to the
Yeah, I
question, isn't
think
it?
so. He's talking back to your to your point about nanotanks, about getting good advice and bad advice, and how I think this is something that's throughout the hobby, isn't it, Julian? I'm sure you'll agree, but it's
Yeah,
you've got to be careful about where you get your advice from, and you have
absolutely.
a lot of people out there telling people that they can put fish that are wholly unsuitable in very small tanks, and
Right.
it kills the interest in the hobby, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
where do you stand on the
Well,
advice front?
yeah. So remember, first products were the video, get people focused on how to set up a tank right, then published books. And again, as I said, it was the right time. We were really successful with that.
Mm.
But now people don't read books very rarely. Some
No.
people do, but so all of a sudden that form of communication, that source of information is kind of evaporated. So people rely either on the internet forums, or, maybe in a shop where if the shop doesn't have good staff, they may get wrong advice. Now, a really good store, it's great to have a relationship with a good store that has good employees that take the time to give you good advice, and they exist out there. So that's important. The other thing that for decades was a great source of information was aquarium clubs. But just like books, that's evaporating.
Yeah.
Most of the aquarium societies around the world have kind of fallen apart because people just don't go meet anymore.
No.
I think that's
So
one thing that
it's
around here that we're certainly trying to push this. It's lovely to hear you talk about frag swaps. Frag swaps is something that in Ireland, which is it's a country with a smaller population and even smaller population of reefers, but we have a frag swap event every few months. I know that there are breakfast clubs out there where people get together a bit, but I definitely agree with you that the social side of the hobby is on the decline, if you like, and people aren't meeting up and talking to each other anymore. I think it's really important.
Right. It absolutely is. So, and I regret that because, I mean, if you were to ask me what are my regrets, is just seeing that, when I first published books, I had this notion that once you've shared the information and it's out there, forever, that, hey, you did this research, you found this, and you've consolidated all this useful information and you've put it out there by the thousands, that then that base of information would just grow and never go away. And initially that was true. The hobby lifted to a new level. But then when the source of information decomposes, becomes old, then everybody's reinventing the wheel, and good information it becomes scarce. I never anticipated that.
Right.
I just thought that just by sharing it, then it would become common knowledge, right? And that's not the case. So I depend on everyone to share their knowledge and hopefully do so accurately. To keep the hobby going.
I think being able to admit when you don't know something's important as well. And I think sometimes people struggle with that. You see a lot of advice going out there where, I don't know, when you're, I say relatively new to the hobby or perhaps not doing it in a professional capacity, you want to help people and it comes from a really good place. And it's very much, I think that this is your problem and this is what might help. But I think once you've been doing it for long enough, you understand the value in saying, I don't know, but I'll find out, rather than producing something
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
So people do stump me with things. I mean, common stuff like what's this parasite or whatever, that I'm normally able to help them out with. But sometimes there's a complex problem going on, and pictures don't really, give me enough information, or even a description doesn't give me enough information. And I don't. I even have events happen in my own systems where I look at that and sometimes I go, okay, I know exactly what did that, what I need to do, and darn me for letting that happen. And there are other times I look at it, I'm like, I have no clue what's going on there. That's me saying that. And I enjoy then commiserating with my own colleagues. There are people who I look up to, who I know are really very experienced in this hobby. And I'll share with them what's going on. And I'll say, okay, you're going to tell me all the things that I've thought of, right? Yes. This. Okay. It's none of that. So let's go with this.
Very good. And everyone should always be open to learning. Once you've decided you know everything, that's when you stop learning from others, isn't it?
It's just about being honest, really, isn't it? So,
next one.
What do you think beginners overcomplicate most in reef keeping? So for somebody just setting up a tank, what do they overcomplicate?
Okay, well, and I don't want to put a blame on them. I'd like to put the blame on the hobby to some respects. Although it's really a chicken and egg thing. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
A beginner could be someone who's just taken the first step from someone who's never had an aquarium. And I can tell you that when people who've never had an aquarium come and visit me at home or walk into the door at Two Little Fishies and see the aquariums here, there's a few words that come out of their mouth always. Okay, not sometimes, always. And they say, that's hard to do, isn't it? That's expensive and it takes a lot of your time. You got to be testing the water all the time.
Yep.
And don't you have to change the water all the time? So all of those words come out of their mouth without ever having any experience.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? It's already in their head that this is expensive, takes a lot of time, and is complicated. You have to balance all of these different parameters and you have to test them all. Right?
Yes.
So people who aren't even beginners, they've never been a hobbyist, have that bias already.
Yeah.
So when they become a new aquarist, they still have that bias. And so what do? They test a lot. So they buy a bunch of test kits and they put in a complex way. And when they have a failure, they figure, oh, F it, this is not worth it. All my thoughts were right. They've confirmed their bias.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if they had somebody who had experience who could tell them, look, there are some things you do need to test. There are definitely some things that you need to do, but let's not overcomplicate this thing. Here, set up this system, do these few things, buy these certain corals and fish. Don't be tempted by other corals or fish. Buy this limited range of things, have success, and then see where you want to go from there. That would be, a better start.
Yeah.
I think it's good to test water, but I don't think you need to be testing it daily and probably not even weekly, but monthly for sure. Yes. But I think beginning hobbyists probably end up testing a little bit too much, and they probably put too much faith in the results of those tests.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's where, all my fish died, and I went to the store. He tested my water, and it was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah,
when
we
they
get this all the time.
back to the store and say, F this, it's too hard.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have an expert to say, you bought that fish. And you didn't quarantine it. They always get sick and die. So, hey, it's not your water.
Yeah.
If you didn't quarantine the fish,
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
these are
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think this perception and I think as well possibly kind of the way the hobby's going in terms of technology is in a way in the current day to blame for that a little bit, because with the rise of things like ICP testing, when every source of information you have tells you that you need to now be testing for 75 parameters instead of the 3 that you thought you had to test for. Now you feel 78 is it? Have we missed a couple?
Yeah.
So 78 parameters instead of the 3 that we're told is essential to start with, and before you know it, you feel like you're lacking and that you're not doing it right if you don't. Whereas it's not the case, is it? I think as you say, it should be done in a more simple form than that, certainly by people just getting into it.
Yeah, a lot of people are taking their advice from AI as well at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that overcomplicates it a lot, because me and Adam had a chat about this a while back about AI. You can keep talking to AI about a specific subject and you can actually convince it to agree with you.
It'll agree with you. Yeah,
it will agree with you at one point.
It wants to please. I tell you, I've done some interesting AI searches, and it does come up with some accurate information on chemistry. It's really surprising and detailed, and then gives you the ability to explore more and all. But sometimes it will go with accurate information and then pick up something that it is seen on a forum where people have been discussing it. Some inaccurate nonsense gets stuck in there as well.
Yeah, it does.
You know, someone has interpreted chemistry and its application, and then you can have something incorrect.
Absolutely. And in some cases, sorry, go on.
Well, I'll let you get back to the some cases, but I wanted to say that if you look at my blog on Two Little Fishies website, one of the recent blog posts I talked about taxonomy and soft corals, and it was interesting where I did a search on a true genus, a scientific name of a soft coral, and because the aquarium hobby gets that name wrong, they've applied that name incorrectly. The AI picks up on that and states it as if it is fact.
Yes.
And so that was really fascinating to me. So you do a search for it and look at the images, and the images are of a valid coral, but the name associated with it is wrong. So I've now written this blog and put the correct name and put the right pictures and all. And I then posted and said, it'll be interesting to see whether the algorithm picks up on that with my one blog versus thousands of people saying it incorrectly, whether it'll come.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say there was that sometimes either the right information gets hidden in a forest of incorrect information, and in some cases even the people who have the right information are not able to get it through to people. I mean, just as an example, a guest that we had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago was a great friend of the shop, Dr. Bobby Ortiz, who's is American as well, from your neck of the woods. He's a specialist exotics and fish veterinarian. And he bemoans the fact that when somebody sends him a picture of a fish with an issue, that he is legally not allowed to give any kind of diagnosis without actually making without having a physical inspection of the fish. And he's saying you've got so many people on Facebook, on wherever, going, well, it's ick, it's velvet, do this, do that. And he's sitting there going, I'm not allowed to tell you, but I know that you're all wrong.
Yeah.
Must be frustrating.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, but your books and stuff going at the beginner level as well must be is great. I think you need to hit at all levels, don't you? Some of your information's very, very technical, and of course some of the rest of it isn't as well, and it needs all angles, doesn't it? It needs the high level as well as the simpler stuff.
Yeah.
All
right, Adam, you are really good with big words, so you can read out this one.
I'm really good.
It's the one from Jake there, so he's
okay. Jake 9057 asks, hey guys, sorry, not really a reef keeping question. What would you consider the best means of reef restoration? Studies on zooxanthellae, Claire's adaptation or coral propagation and breeding, etc. I'm going to infer a little bit there. Well, I mean, he's talking about reef restoration as in wild reefs. And I'm going to infer that he's talking about restoration in terms of issues caused by global climate change, I guess, but also possibly you could look at it in terms of what's taken away from the reef for the purpose of the hobby. So how do we put back to the reef effectively, and how does the wild reef become as it was before humans came along, I guess?
Well, I got news for you. The wild reef, for the most part, in most places, is never going back to the way it was before humans.
Yeah.
Okay, it just did. There are fortunately places. I mean, I can't comment on what it looked like before humans, but I can tell you there are places that are probably as close as you can get, that really are pristine. So I don't want to be a downer, but there are definitely places around the world, in Indonesia, in the Solomon Islands, that despite the occasional hurricane or heat wave where they do get decimated locally, but by and large they have huge diversity of coral and fishes, very good coral cover, and they're worth visiting and seeing that and experiencing that just awesome health of a coral reef. Many other places are severely degraded, especially throughout the Caribbean and in Florida where I live.
So is there stuff we could
w-
do, for example, like the question there was talking about coral propagation? Can we breed fish and put them back effectively in a way that's going to be meaningful to the world? Can we spawn
I'll cover
corals? And
that.
yeah,
I will cover that. It was a really well worded question. And then your supplementary addition to it. So, um, what I wanted to maybe touch on first, because you tagged to it the possibility that the aquarium hobby was a factor in the degradation of the reefs.
mm,
And although plenty of publications that state that, I would say, in my opinion, for the most part, it's really not so.
mm,
Um, the extraction, the harvest of fish, um, it is fairly minimal in impact
okay,
in most regions. It can be locally impactful, but the volume is just not there for most species, except perhaps certain rare incidences, but
mm,
not the majority of the species that we keep.
mm,
Corals, I would say the same thing, like your acroporid corals and most of your reef building corals and the soft corals. The impact is something like, if you were to look at somebody's lawn and, were to go with a scissor and sort of cut the lawn and then come back a month later, you know,
yeah,
you can you can weigh the cuttings that you took and you can write about, you know, what percentage of the lawn you've just impacted, but come back in a month.
what? And you can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
However, and Charles and I touched upon this in the Reef Aquarium Volume 3. There are corals that are an exception to that, and that would be some of the large polyp stony corals, such as Cinerina, Acanthophilia,
Mm,
which are now quite popular in the trade.
mm,
They're not reef building corals. They don't grow very fast. They're not super slow either, but they can be locally over harvested. So
mm,
this would be, as I said, Cinerina, Acanthophyra, excuse me, Acanthophilia.
mm.
They're similar donut corals.
Yeah,
Trachyphilia, what do you call those in Ireland? Trachyphilia,
Yeah,
trackies.
train
Yeah,
yeah,
corals,
yeah,
tracky.
trackies.
trackies,
Yep,
trackies. Okay.
Okay.
trackies. Yeah,
Um, those grow a little bit faster than the Cinerina, and they can be locally much more abundant.
Mm,
But because there is such intense interest in them, they can be locally over harvested. Catallophilia falls in that category too. What do you
mm.
call them? Cats there?
yeah.
Yeah,
We call them cats as well.
elegant corals.
Cataphilia,
Yeah.
Elegant
elegant
squirrel is what
coral.
we
Yep.
call them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They can be over harvested locally.
Mm,
Um,
Yeah.
so I was pleased to see that Jamie Craggs from the Horniman Museum
Yeah.
spawned and reared those and showed how quickly from larva to a marketable size they
Yeah.
can grow.
mm,
So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Also, some work has been done with Cinerina, Trachyphilia, and Acanthophilia. All of them have been spawned in captivity.
Yeah.
mm,
Um, and of course, we have all the work that's done with vegetative propagation. So to touch on that is, can that be used to give back to the reef? Absolutely.
mm.
You could have farms in the countries where these corals come from.
Yeah.
You're not going to breed them in Ireland and send them back to
No.
Indonesia. You're
No. No.
just not.
No. It's not gonna happen.
But you could have farms in the countries where they're from, where you could be breeding and putting babies back. There
Yeah.
already are mariculture farms in
Mm,
Indonesia.
Yeah.
And the mariculture does two things. You get to keep a mother colony where you might have a rare form there.
yeah.
You'd have to look far and wide to find it. And instead of collecting it once and selling it once, you can keep it, propagate it vegetatively, and then continuously sell it.
Mm,
Yeah.
Those can also be used to mass propagate and then transplant and put them back on the reef.
mm,
I don't know to what extent that's being done. Most likely it isn't. But I know that For example, Vincent Chalias in Bali, who has Ocean Gardener. You can look up Ocean Gardener. He was one of the first, if not the first, to set up Indonesian coral mariculture in the sea, which was used both for reef restoration and for growing corals for the aquarium hobby. He has now concentrated his focus on reef restoration. I think that's all he does now. And a point I want to make is that the reef restoration in Florida and the Caribbean and all over the world has its basis in the aquarium hobby. It's not universities, academics, and scientists saying, gee, we need to do reef restoration and we're academic experts and we know how to do it. And we're just going to tell everybody how to restore reefs. On the contrary, it was people who had familiarity with the technology of reef aquarium keeping who thought, gee, this could be used to do reef restoration.
Yeah.
So all of the techniques, all of the equipment used, it originates with the aquarium hobby, and we should be really proud of that.
Absolutely.
Because the main reason why coral reefs are, degrading around the world is climate change. It is, these heat waves have the biggest impact where you see mass bleaching and mass die-off.
Yeah.
Sure, pollution can have localized impacts, but if you live near the reef, you can see that corals are quite resilient and able to tolerate more pollution than we imagine that they can. Disease that can come from sewage is an issue. Not the polluting nitrogen and phosphorus as much as the bacteria disease and that can come from human waste. So those are factors. Hurricanes are factors since before humans, and they have very dramatic physical effects, but the corals do recover after getting chopped up. The reefs may look bad for a number of years, but eventually they come quite nicely. But when nearly 100% of them are impacted by basically rapid tissue necrosis that can happen when the water goes up to over 35 or 40 degrees Celsius. It takes much longer to recover.
And it's amazing to see some of the. I was watching a documentary not so long ago, and it might well be one of the people you were talking about guys in a natural reef area where they were dropping these enormous metal frames into the water and almost fixing corals to them and plotting where they are, and then going back later and visiting them and finding that they really genuinely are creating reefs. But what amazed me was the kind of the flyover pictures of the reef and just the huge expanses of just gone, just lifeless piles of sticks, if you like, just calcium carbonate lumps all over the place with no life on them whatsoever. Quite scarily impressive to see. And at least we're doing something at least there are people out there doing stuff to put back. Do you think there's a value? I mean, obviously there's a value, but how much of a value do you think there is in things like looking at better propagation methods for corals for the hobby so that we stop? And I know what you say, and I love the grass cutting analogy. You're not doing as much damage as we perhaps think, but the kind of the peak of the crest, if you like, and then the fall off on the other side, that now we genuinely are putting back. And now we really are breeding and propagating and growing corals. Like we were talking to the guys from Reef in Germany. No doubt you've heard of Reef, who are doing fantastic work over there. Like that's got to be having an impact, hasn't it? Like we're now producing things for ourselves. We're tank breeding fish a lot. We're kind of aquaculturing corals rather than using a lot of wild collected stuff. There's an impact there, surely.
Well, the way I see it. If you can understand that for the most part, the extraction of the corals has no negative impact. Maybe the biggest negative impact that you're putting it on an airplane and burning fossil fuel to get to you. But the actual extraction itself is
least of the
not
reef's worries.
Yes, for most corals, with the few exceptions that I mentioned. But it's important to recognize that by having an industry of harvesting corals and harvesting fishes, you are giving value to the natural reef and making the people who live there recognize the value of protecting it from people who would otherwise be doing things that would destroy it. Like, let's build a hotel here, you know, let's dredge and build a port here, you know. So if you have people who say, hey, I make my livelihood of, out of harvesting from this reef, and it's the place where these wonderful corals that the aquarium industry wants are, and I can sustainably harvest them here, and it brings this economy to my community, they're going to fight and not have that hotel or that port built there.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a really good point. Give the reef some value to the people who live there, and it protects it against.
The same argument is made, like, with the cardinal tetrafish and the fishery in Brazil. Sure, those fish are now raised in Southeast Asia. I'm sure they're raised to some extent in the European Union, but having that fishery there in Brazil gives an incentive to protect the natural habitat where they come from, instead of cutting it and making a farm to grow cattle or something.
I think the Bangui cardinals they come from an island called Bangui, is it, or something? They're in a region like this.
Right.
Is it? I'm not
Very
sure.
specific
but I
region.
seen that, like, where they're originally from, they're nearly endangered in that area. But in other parts of the world, they're nearly invasive. There's that many of them.
Is that right?
Yeah. And
Individual case.
I don't know where I've heard it. I think it was on another podcast. I think maybe it was somebody from TMC or something saying about it, and they were talking about it being like there's still a lot of Bangui cardinals collected from the world. There's not as many.
Oh, you were talking about the Bangui cardinals. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they're considered endangered in their original location.
Yeah.
But they were released elsewhere in Sulawesi.
Yes, that's where it is.
And they're considered invasive where they were released. That's a bit of human psychology. Truly.
Okay.
Because they weren't there before. So now that they are there, because they're successful, they're considered invasive.
Yes.
Okay.
So
but what their negative impact is, who knows? And invasive just means it wasn't.
I've seen it. There were papers saying, well, look at all these Bangui cardinal fish living in this anemone with the clownfish. It's going to displace the clownfish. Again, psychology. If you go to their native range, they're there in the anemones with the clownfish too.
Okay.
So it's part of where they live, and they're not displacing the clownfish. So there was a if you follow Nicole Helgeson on Facebook, she just posted some really great little stories of her visit to Sulawesi, and she went to the Bangui Islands. This is only just a couple months ago, but it was posted like this past week. And she took pictures of the Bangui cardinals in the habitat there with the clownfish. And she was saying, we found so many clowns in the anemones with the Banguis. And I wanted to write to her and say, yeah, you should look at this paper where they were saying that how bad Bangui cardinal fish are, a few hundred miles away.
Yeah, sure. Worked in one location, big problem in another. Maybe not.
Yeah. Endangered there, invasive here.
And I think there's enough examples around the world where the whole invasive thing gets thrown about with a connotation that it's doing horrendous harm. Like, I mean, there are situations where that's true, like long-spined urchins, lionfish, near enough everything that gets into Australia, where the invasive nature of various fish isn't great for the ecosystem, and it does have far-reaching impacts. But few Bengais sharing a few anemones with a few clownfish, exactly as they do a few hundred kilometers away, surely can't be the worst thing.
No.
Correct. And so, and then of course that made it easier for the exporters to be able to harvest them nearer to their export site. It all kind of made sense.
Sure.
Nevertheless, Bangui cardinal fish are very easy to farm raise, and the Banguis that are in the trade now are raised in Thailand.
Right.
where if they're raised in nets in Thailand.
Okay.
And what I'll say about the farm raised ones, and this is an important feature of farm raised anything, they are hardier than the wild ones. That's not always the case. Sometimes the farm raised ones have issues as well. But for the Banggai cardinals, without a doubt, the farm raised ones are really robust, whereas the wild caught ones tend to have more issues with disease.
Adaptation issues,
Yeah.
disease issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How some things can be hardier and some can't. I totally understand the logic of an animal that spent its whole life in a tank and is 5 generations in a tank being better, but also the idea that 25 generations later, maybe some things that are a little bit less than natural have gone on that are having a detrimental effect on the health and quality of the fish and coral.
Right. Well, you see that in some of the clownfish,
Yes.
because of the breeding. If you're not careful to line breed and bring in some more genetic diversity, sometimes the fish become more delicate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They have issues.
Have we another question, David? Have we got?
Yes,
I think got the ones from Stephen.
I'll have a look for them now in a second. I have to go back out of this. So
no
what I'll do is I'll just bring it back to kind of aquariums,
Yeah, of course.
So just a question I was sent the other day was if someone is starting a reef tank in 2026, what would you do differently to what you did 20 years ago?
Great question.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a creative.
Yeah. It is,
broad as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, one of the differences, and the way he stated is, what would you do differently, and that put a little emphasis on it.
Yeah.
I'll just point out that in the 20-year time span, the choice of lighting options has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I might illuminate the tank differently than I would have 20 years ago, just because of what options are available. As far as the techniques, me personally, not a whole lot of change. So, I'd still very likely be using some form of surface skimming overflow, whether it's draining to a sump below or just an all-in-one that has a surface skimmer. That's sort of kind of standard in the aquarium hobby these days.
Yeah.
It wasn't always. And you see people these days setting up aquariums without them, and you can, but it does make the system, the gas exchange is better. That's the way that is. I think probably the question of whether you have a bare bottom or sand or gravel on the bottom has been a subject of question people have had for more than 20 years now. My take on it hasn't really changed all that much. I do personally like sand on the bottom, but I have to say that before I kind of settled into I like sand on the bottom, I even wrote in my Reef Notes column back in the early 1990s that setting up a reef aquarium with a bare bottom, just putting live coral on the bottom, was a good idea because you could permanently eliminate the issue of detritus accumulating. If you have strong water flow and the corals are just growing on the bottom, there's no place for the detritus to go. It just goes into the overflow into your mechanical filter, settles in your sump.
Yeah.
I still believe that's true, and I've seen a lot of setups done that way. Beautiful aquariums with corals growing all over the bottom, but I still kind of prefer a sand bottom. I think it gives it a nice, a natural feel.
Considerably easier to cycle and mature as well.
Yeah.
What's interesting though is that a lot of the coral farms and some of the larger beautiful aquarium displays will have these bare bottom tanks for maintenance reasons. And what that does is it changes the biological dynamics. In some respects, it's beneficial doing it that way because, as you're probably aware, corals compete with bacteria for available ammonia.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, eating your fish and the ammonia is coming into the aquarium and you've got the corals there, they're going to, benefit from that. And
Yep.
if you've got a sand, well, the bacteria are going to be competing for that ammonia. And so, not saying that it's a bad thing. What I'm saying is it's really fascinating to me how the farms and some of the larger exhibits have demonstrated that this technique is beneficial to growing corals.
Yeah.
And if I were, you know, adding an addendum to a new book on coral husbandry, I would point that out, that you know, the sand bed or gravel bed gives you a biological stability.
Yeah.
But if your goal is rapid growth of corals, you may want to consider the size of the sand bed, or even whether you're going to include it or not, because for this reason. The same is true of using an algal turf filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Algae compete with the corals for the same nutrients, and not only do they compete for nitrogen and phosphorus, the algae compete for trace
All the
metals.
trace elements as well. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're using algal filtration, you need to increase the amount of trace metals, trace elements, which you're adding
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
system if you're trying to maintain healthy corals.
That's an absolutely fascinating take on that, Julian, and one that I've not even considered before. The fact that your biological filtration, or your bacteria, if you like, your autotrophs that are taking their energy source from inorganics such as ammonia, they're in direct competition with corals for nitrogen source in the purest form that it can be in a reef tank, which is NH3, NH4. So,
that's
how much of that do you want going on?
Well, you want it for
Yeah.
stability,
Yes.
Yeah.
especially for beginners.
Yeah.
But you
Oh, yeah.
want to really think about that.
Mm.
And let's look at that couple more things. First of all, I wanted to say that was the subject upon which I got myself fired back in 1900.
Here we go. I'm game, Julian. Let's do it.
what we were building was what were called wet dry filters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got you.
That was the bread and butter, the main company product.
Mm.
And what I did was I took the wet dry filter off of my reef aquarium, and my corals looked better.
Right.
And then I wrote about that.
Wow. Okay.
And so it was like, oh, now I understand. So anyway, that's one thing. The other, shoot, now I've lost it. They were asking what I would do differently. Yeah, I had another thought and I got myself distracted with wanting to point out the earlier of getting fired.
Yeah. No.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
Yeah, protein skimming, of course, is really very important when you have especially a lot of fish. You can definitely set up a reef aquarium without a skimmer. I have many aquariums running that way now, but I point out when people visit, I say, this tank would be better if there was a skimmer on it.
Sure.
Okay.
It's quite easy to observe the benefits of it.
Yeah.
But skimmers are also competing with corals. They're taking out phytoplankton. They're taking out some types of microbes that are food.
Yeah.
At the same time, taking out things that would break down. Yeah, I do remember what I wanted to point out. Professor Jobert, with his very thick sand bed, is being a critical part of the success of natural nitrate reduction.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. If you've got a deep sand bed, you can run a system with very low nitrate levels. Okay, it gets you to that point. You can achieve that, and you can see the benefit to the system because you can feed it more without having the risk of nitrate accumulating. So that's another caveat to the whole sand bed thing. I was just telling you that maybe limit the sand bed so you're not competing with the corals for the ammonia, but if you're dependent on the sand bed, you can utilize it to prevent that ammonia from becoming nitrate.
Mm.
You got it?
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
the
So you can
problem,
feed more.
problem, you're right. So the problem with the original wet dry filter was that it was an aerobic
Yep.
Yes.
biological filter. So it was extremely efficient at grabbing that ammonia and converting it to nitrate.
Mm.
So what wet dry filters did generally was result in an increase in nitrate over time.
Mm.
That could be curbed by having other things to deal with it, by having a thick sand bed to denitrify or having an algal filter. But the main issue was you were competing for ammonia and you were raising the nitrate level. That was really not good for corals.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. A reduction in ammonia and an increase in nitrate is a problem for corals. Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a movement in the hobby at the moment that actually kind of well, I suppose it's a combination of where do corals get their nutrients from. The talk about
Yes.
dosing urea, ammonium products, that sort of thing, and then pulse feeding of phosphates is I think it's something that's on its way, and no doubt there are people out there like yourself that have done more work on this field. Go on.
Would you say that's something for beginners?
No.
No, I wouldn't.
Thank you. I would not. But
Not
it's
at all.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true that this is, technique and it's the right direction. It's known. Scientific literature backs it up.
Yep.
But it's not necessary to be thinking, oh, I should be dosing this. Now I'm a beginning hobbyist, and that's no.
Yeah.
And
even a young tank as well, I think. I mean, you need the organisms inside that glass box to actually assimilate and use some of this stuff before you go chucking it in.
Correct.
50 frags is not a grown out reef.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What
a difference it makes. So many of the problems that beginners run into are because they've started out with a bunch of itty bitty coral frags. And then they're illuminating them, and they've got all of this surface area that's just beautiful for growing algae.
Yeah.
And so then they wonder, my corals aren't doing well, but the algae is, there's that balance.
Yeah.
And if you start out with bigger pieces of coral or more coral, your chances of success are greater, as long as you understand that the corals are going to be sucking up the calcium and the alkalinity, and you're going to need to keep up with that. But your chances of success are higher.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me see.
Other question.
I think we'll just move on. What's one old school reefing practice you still believe works better than modern trends?
Say that again. What an old form works better than modern?
So an old school reefing practice that you still believe works better than the modern trends that we see now.
Wow. Old school. A lot of what's old is new again anyway. Some people would argue that metal halide lighting works better than the LEDs that are so popular.
I was going to put you on that. I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned that before when the question was what would you do differently, and you spoke about lighting the tank differently. Now, when I started reefing, it was very much metal halides and T5s. LEDs weren't a thing at all, and the early ones were frankly good for making your corals look a bit brighter, but they didn't really do much for growing them. So going on that lighting front, metal halides being a better solution potentially for lighting a reef. So would you light a tank differently now then? Or would you keep to that old school halides T5s type method, and why?
Okay, so most of my aquariums are illuminated now with LEDs. It has to do with what's available, and I'm curious to try different ones. I do have one tank that has a metal halide on it with a couple of LED serving the purpose of the T5s. My first reef aquariums were fluorescents. T5s were not a thing back then in the late 1980s, or even actually my first ones were in the early 1980s, and it was all T12 at that time. And when the reef hobby really took off in the US, what was popular were T12 actinics from Philips and daylight bulbs from Philips.
Yeah.
And so there was a period of time where there was something called a power twist bulb. I don't know if you saw those in the UK, and we can go through a bunch of different ones, but the fluorescent lights were really great. And the effect, you had your standard output and high output and VHO, very high output, your special ballast, got extra bright fluorescence. And I got to say that the health of the corals and the look of the corals under the VHO fluorescent bulbs was about as good as you're ever going to see historically. But 99.9% of the reef aquarium hobby has never seen it. What those VHO bulbs achieved was very much like what you saw with a bank of T5s. Do you remember the ATI fixture that had like 8 or 10 bulbs
Absolutely.
across?
Yep.
And all the corals are just glowing and just like that. And it was a very flat light that filled the space beautifully. Same effect we had with the VHO T12s. And you can approximate something like that if you put enough LED light, a bit more wattage, and have a bit more white, to get a little more balanced color, not too blue. So it's possible with all these different techniques. The metal halide, though, is really different because it's a point source of light. The shadows are really quite different. And then, of course, depending on the reflector that you use, you get some different effects. But the color of metal halides in general, the kind of daylight you can get is rather hard to duplicate with LEDs. It's not impossible. I've seen some LED spots with enough white in them where they did come pretty close to the look of metal halide if you've got enough wattage. So
the deep blue is just so popular these days.
It really is.
It really is, because you really enhance those fluorescent pigments, colors.
Doesn't do much for the fish, to be honest.
Right. But for old school, because the word in that question was old school, I think there's still a longing for some metal halide. And I would love to do some combination, where it was maybe mostly LEDs and then a couple of metal halide spots. I've even seen a couple of exhibits done where over the tank there were the standard heavily blue influenced LEDs, and from a distance from the ceiling there were LEDs, but they were lower color temperature, more yellowish white.
Okay.
So you got that sunlight effect, and they had a narrow beam, and it was if it's done properly, you don't have too much separation in the color, and it looks more natural. But if it's done improperly, then it looks like you've got a blue tank and somebody opened the window, and it's not properly the colors.
Sunlight
I think
coming
there's
through a window can squash blue light quite quickly, can't it? Can quite easily.
Yes, it does. Right.
Not everyone's lucky enough to have fish rooms like this with no light coming in
no
whatsoever.
light coming in, and
right.
It's quite nice. It can be quite nice.
I'm trying to imagine some other old school technique that has been superseded by something new.
Is live rock, dry rock, old school, new school? I can't decide. Live rock's still pretty popular.
Good that you brought that up. That really is an old school new school thing. I really think that the dry rock and the ability to aquascape with it now with the powder and cyanoacrylate. Are you familiar with that?
We're
so.
very
I love that product.
I love it.
Yeah, right. So I mean, Two Little Fishies has that now as well, and that technique, which really frees you up to build an aquascape any shape that you want,
Yeah.
to me is superior to ordering live rock and not knowing what shapes you're going to get and then hoping to build something nice with it.
The old
Now,
rock wall.
by the same token, the diversity of life that you get with a live rock is nothing to sneeze at. It's really important.
Yeah.
With live corals, because live corals tend to have a little bit of live rock with them, you get some of that diversity. But the system takes a bit more time to mature when you start with all dry rock.
It does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But it does actually get there. And, you know, as I said, if you start with more live coral, you have less problems with the ugly days.
Yeah. Keep
where you
coming
have
across this. Keep coming across this viewpoint that you should put a lot of coral in your tank early days, and you're gonna end up with a mature system a lot faster. Go for larger colonies.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
true.
That's old school, new
Whether
school as well, isn't it? Buying corals versus buying a colony of a coral versus buying a fingertip size frag of it and hoping it'll grow for you.
Absolutely. That totally is old school versus new school. The old school was really into the colonies. We didn't even have frag. So of course you bought colony.
Yeah.
And so once the fragging became a thing, then the cost per coral went up.
Yeah.
We had shrinkage. Used to be a $30 coral. Now it's a $30 coral.
Yeah, absolutely.
Selling single Zoanta frags for $500 and $600 dollars. It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
God, Davey, have we got another one?
Right, so
I'm sure we've got so many questions. I'll just
one thing. Let me see.
Just to say to the guys while Davey's finding his question that we won't get to everyone's question. We've had so many people interested in asking you questions, Julian. So we're picking and choosing and grabbing the ones that we've got to ask tonight. So
let me see. This one is: what are the most underrated factors when it comes to coral coloration?
The most underrated factors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you talk to your corals?
Does that help the blue pigments come out?
Yes. I feel blue. Or sing to them. Do you play music by the coral? Okay, look, there have been a lot of articles written about coral color and how to get there. So, I mean, I don't know that in listing all of them, which ones might be underrated.
Yeah.
What I can point out is that lighting is key, is critical, because the lighting will stimulate the fluorescent color and fluorescent pigments. But you can take a fluorescent coral and under the right conditions, it'll turn brown and it's not going to fluoresce.
Yeah.
Nutrient levels are a factor. High nutrient levels will tend to brown out a coral. Lower nutrient levels will make their population of zooxanthellae less, and they'll be lighter, so the natural fluorescent colors and pigments will be more clear and enhanced. Amino acids are really, really important in helping corals develop color. So that, is a key factor. Growing, when a coral is happily growing and growing quickly, it will be more colorful. So that means that maintaining calcium and alkalinity and pH, pushing the coral to grow, is likely to promote color. Spectrum of light, as I started, can be a key factor as well. Not all corals look their best under purely blue light. Some corals do color up better with more white light. Ones that are in shallower water, some of the purples, you'll get better purple violet colors with some white light in there.
Yeah, especially in leather corals. In your soft corals,
Yes. Yeah. And so underrated things, I don't know. To some extent, flow can be involved in promoting growth. So you might see some influence of the water motion on coral color as well.
Yeah.
I think flow's underrated. I'd give it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think breaking the
very-
surface tension of the coral, allowing water exchange around the colony itself, removing and therefore increasing the pH.
Yeah.
Your pH of your tank is not necessarily your pH of the water within 0.5 millimeter of your coral polyp.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's good flow.
It's the type of flow as well. It's random flow and trying to mimic that current. And now we have new types of devices coming out, like Ocean Sea Wave. They brought out that kind of rotational.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
That would be the more underrated.
Yeah.
Have you seen that product? Have you seen the Ocean? What do you think about that sort of product, the Ocean Sea Wave product? The kind of like an oscillating fan that rotates you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're great,
Yeah.
do you think?
It's funny that it's like that's something new. We've had that in the USA for a long time.
Really?
Out of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm
Right.
trying to remember the name. It's my now too old brain is tip of the tongue syndrome. What the heck is the name? Somebody who's listening will know what I'm talking about and type it. Yeah, it's in my books. I show them.
Right.
That's been around in the US for a long time, but now is that one from TMC?
No, this is from Ocean Sea Waves. There's a guy. It's actually 3D printed device, but it's really good. His name is Mark. I think he's only starting to hit the market now. I do know Tunzi have made one now, and they have
Tunzi.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, and
I was going to mention
that one's fairly new. That is
fairly new for them, but again, the
Yes.
original one is out of the US.
right.
You could, and they came in a number of different sizes,
Yes.
depending on the size of the power head that you were rotating. Sea Swirl.
I know the one. I know the one.
Yeah, and that's from like the early 90s, I think, is when they did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a motorized box on top of the tank with a stem that goes down in that turns it with that kind of motion? Yeah,
where you
attach your power head to it.
Yes.
Yeah. They're very good. It's made a big change in our. We have a 1,000-liter display here, off to the side of us there. It's made a great difference. A very plain power head becomes incredibly useful with one of those.
You can really see the difference in inflow as well, like big time. It's really changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
How the corals are growing and everything in the aquarium. A lot of them used to just kind of, especially the SPS, to be all going one direction towards the light, and now because the flow was so random, they're starting to grow upwards again. And and I think it's just because it's so random and there's such a natural current there now. There is.
Yeah, it's one of the things you'll notice when you go scuba diving on a coral reef. Sure, there are areas where you get corals that are growing in a particular direction, but by and large, if you look at the reef builders, the aquaporid corals, they form these nice, compact, perfectly oriented pieces, and you're like, God, and then they cut off like a flat top at a certain height. And that's a real mystery too, because if you do that in an aquarium, you can achieve that nice flat top look, but eventually they then continue growing up, and so then the lower part dies, and you can find that in nature too, where a bit is died and then it's growing up again, and you could do that in multiple levels. But the majority of the heads that you see, the tables of Acropora, are these just, perfect, whether they're this size or, like a big table, more than a meter across.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, well, what keeps them at that level? Why don't they continue to grow up? Probably eventually just the waves or whatever, it just breaks them up, moves them over, and then you're starting over again. It doesn't look that way. It really is kind of a funny thing to watch.
Yeah,
somebody should do a time lapse on a section.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
see what.
Yeah.
It could also be a lot of just like herbivory with plants,
Mm.
Yeah.
like you cut your hedges.
Yeah.
It could be the parrotfish constantly grazing and just keeping it at that
Yeah,
Mhm.
keeping it.
level.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Get to another question.
Yeah.
Talking too much.
No, it's good. It's good. It's all information.
It's wonderful.
So Julian, and this was a question from me, and it was just something I was thinking of. Is there a certain coral species that has taught you the most difficult lessons? Like, is there
A certain
one coral that always
that
challenges you and has like changed your outlook on reef keeping itself?
Well, you probably know there was one that just vexed me for a number of years, and then I found a solution. And then the vexing problem was how to let people know about it. um, so that was the Catallophilia, the cat, elegans coral.
Yeah, and it's why I brought it
Uh,
up because I've seen stuff about it in the
okay.
past. Yeah,
Yeah. So, there's still a bit of mystery to figure out with them, but yeah, in the early days, in the late 80s and early 90s, generally, they were easy to keep, the ones that we were getting from Indonesia. And then there came a point where suddenly they were getting a syndrome and dying. And,
yeah,
you know, it was just so puzzling. And I looked at it, and a few people I had talked to had reported that treating with antibiotics had helped, that they had, cured it. So I wrote about that at one time. I wrote a column called Reef Notes. It was a question and answer column.
yeah,
People actually waited a month to get their magazine, to get their questions answered, instead of
mm,
there being an internet forum or
Mm.
chat
yeah.
group or whatever.
Wow.
So in that column, I explained that, there's this problem, and it looks like it's caused by a bacterial infection. And then I got criticized by Eric Borneman, who is a colleague of mine, another author about aquarium books and keeping corals. And he said, that's really irresponsible of you to tell people to treat their corals with antibiotics because you don't really know. And I mean, and the truth is, even back then, I felt hesitant to share the information because the use of antibiotics by a novice. I mean, you talked about the veterinarian, who's a fish vet.
Mm.
He would, indiscriminate use of antibiotics in aquariums is not a good idea.
Yeah,
But I wanted to share at least the notion that, okay, here's something that needs to be researched. It's pretty clear that this is a bacterial infection that needs to be treated, but someone like a veterinarian can do the studies and look and see what sensitivity there is, what bacteria are present, which ones may be causing disease. You do Koch's postulate, you isolate the bacteria, you take a healthy coral, you expose it, see if it causes the syndrome, treat with antibiotics, see which types of antibiotics work. All of these things are known to do. They're not things that amateur hobbyists should be doing.
yeah,
But there are practically no veterinarians around to do this kind of work. I'm not saying none, but practically none.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
There are a few who have taken interest, and some work was done after I brought up the subject again. After being beaten up by Eric years ago, that was back, I think, in 2002. I said, this has been bothering me all this time, and I see these corals are dying, and it's really a waste. And to come up with the right treatment. So I got together with an aquarist at a local aquarium. It's a museum here in Miami, the Frost Museum. And I said, look, I'm going to buy an elegans coral, and it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be fine. And a couple of weeks later, it's going to be sick. And I want to bring it to you at that time. And I want your vet to swab it and figure out what is on this thing and what antibiotics to use. And it didn't exactly work that way. The swabbing wasn't particularly helpful. And the first antibiotic they tried also didn't work, but the second one they tried was 100% effective. And that coral is alive to this day. They were able to cure it. And so then we sat on that and thought, well, how are we going to publish this? Because then everybody's going to be treating their corals, and this could be dangerous. And we sat on that a couple of years, and we shared it with a number of importers and said, look, you need to be treating your elegance corals with this antibiotic. You're going to save lives, save a lot of corals. And so they did. They wanted to publish it. And we eventually, it was eventually published in Coral Magazine. I'm wearing their shirt today. And to this day, I still, visit shops and importers, and I see elegance corals exhibiting the beginnings of the syndrome. And I tell them about oxalenic acid is the antibiotic that works for that. And they haven't a clue. No, I didn't know that. That's great. Oh, yeah. Send me the information.
Yeah.
That gets back to, again, my misguided notion that once you get information out there, then everybody knows. That's not the case.
Nope. Yeah, no, they don't.
Have to just constantly beat a drum. And then, of course, the media, the information exchange changes. So then you have to beat drum again. It's very hard for me to accept that, but it is the way it is. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's something that people should know. Eventually, that antibiotic is not going to be effective, and that'll be a sad day. But for now, it is still something that does work. And I think that I should preface that. Not necessarily all elegance corals should be treated with that. There is this other little mystery. There are elegance corals that never get sick. It's just a crazy thing. They're totally immune to this. And I don't know if treating them with the antibiotic is possibly a bad thing. So it's a particular strain of elegance coral. It's a very distinctive one with a striped green mantle and purple tips.
Yeah.
It has a lighter weight skeleton. It's very easy to frag, and they are maricultured from Indonesia. They don't get sick.
Yeah.
And they don't be treated. The ones that get sick are the ones that form a horseshoe-shaped skeleton. And it's a denser skeleton.
Yeah.
They tend to occur from deeper water in Indonesia, and they have much more variety of color. They can be any color in the rainbow. And it's a mystery whether that may indicate that there's more than one species in elegance coral. That's a possibility. Are they just somehow genetically different races, different strains? And so I don't know the answer to that question. I've talked to a number of people who could answer it and haven't yet gotten somebody to really bite and say, let's do an experiment and look at the DNA and see if we can distinguish them, or look at what is it that gives the immune ones their I've done, immunity can come from a number of different things, including just purely genetic ability, something about it. It can also come from the microbiome, what microbes are living on them, and that can be shared. I have done the experiment of taking the immune ones and putting them next to the ones that get sick to see if they share their immunity, and I can tell you without a doubt they do not. Immunity is not something that can be shared. But sadly, it would be great if it could be. But that doesn't mean that a microbe is not part of the immunity of that coral. It's something that needs to be studied.
Sure. I'm going to grab you for one question, Julian, if you don't mind. So a question from a customer of ours whose name is Stephen Whitehead. with a little bit of an add-on, if you don't mind. He asks, with ICP testing now widely available, do you think reefers are genuinely improving their tanks by correcting trace elements, or are many of us chasing numbers instead of observing the animals? And I want to just throw that a little bit wider and say, ICP testing being the specific thing that he asked about, but do you think technology as a whole, auto testing, accuracy of testing in terms of testing at home, not just ICPs, is causing a rise in chasing numbers? And should we be moving away from numbers and looking at our animals and observing a little bit more?
Yeah, I hit upon that right at the beginning of
Did
our
you did?
lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, so here's how I see it. ICP psychologically feeds into that thing that people who've never kept an aquarium believe. Oh, this is complicated. You have to be testing all of these things. It is a product from our aquarium industry that validates that thought.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Is ICP testing valuable? Absolutely. There's really valuable knowledge that comes from it. Okay? Just have to know when and how to use it. It's not something to be pushing on beginning hobbyists. It is absolutely something that aquarium maintenance companies can utilize to benefit when they see a problem in a system and they really are not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
They can be doing the ICP testing and it may reveal a cause, like a corroding magnet. You know, you get a big spike in a metal, and that may be the cause of the problem, or that may be coincidentally happening and not be the cause. But still, there are thousands of instances where the ICP tests have discovered something that can be corrected. Conversely, it can be showing you an imbalance. Some levels are too low, problem with a salt mix, or, something like that. They are important, but emphasizing them, as I said, really buys into this notion that that keeping a reef aquarium is really complex and that you can't do it without testing all the time. We don't.
And it's just such a popular opinion. I mean, even down to home testing. I mean, the test kits that were around, talking about old school, new school, the test kits that were around back in the day, for want of a better phrase, were nowhere near as accurate or as expected to be replicatable as they are now. I mean, our coral base here are tested hourly by an alcatronic, and doses are done without our knowledge even. I guess the focus being is it, yes, okay, the perception of it being harder and the constant need for testing and chasing numbers, but is it taking away from our ability as hobbyists to look at our animals and see a problem? See, because I would possibly say not, because do you not think that there are a lot of problems in a reef tank that by the time you've actually noticed the effect of it visually in your animals, it's too late to do anything about it?
Yeah, that can be the case. If you're really what's the word? If you're an old school or a experienced hobbyist, you definitely take your time, look at the tank, check out, see all the fish, look closely at the corals, do the full walk around if it's a peninsula tank, right? Look down all the things that you do, and then the next day in the morning when a coral has totally died, that's when you get to use your expletives that you wouldn't otherwise, right? Like, I know that coral was fine last night and now it's dead. What? Yeah. That doesn't always happen, but it does sometimes. So true to your point that by the time something doesn't look right, it could be too late. And usually those sudden coral deaths are things like brown jelly infection. And they can start as a small fire that you could miss. And it only is a matter of hours for them to consume a coral head. They don't typically happen because of some water parameter that you can test. They usually happen because of some physical, coral has fallen over or put out a sweeper tentacle and stung something else. The offending organism, which is a protozoan, is ubiquitous. It's in every aquarium. So it's when there's a certain injury, and then it takes over. It's helpful to be observant and really watch our systems to avoid
Yeah.
that happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting though.
biology is key. Yeah.
I guess it's somewhere in the middle, like with all extremes, it's somewhere in the middle. Never testing is wrong, always testing is wrong, you know. And knowing how to knowing how to interpret results is I think important as well. Like we get so many people coming to the shop looking for a bottle of, I don't know, calcium supplement or alkalinity supplement because their tank's running at 7.8 and ChatGTP said it should be 8.2. You know, or basing a dose off one test.
Yeah.
You know, I've tested once, my alkalinity's this, therefore I'm dosing this much. It's like, well, hang on a minute. How's your test kit? You know, how's your accuracy? What was it yesterday? So, yeah, I guess like everything with extremes, the truth's somewhere in the middle.
Right. Very often, whether it's, you know, a test kit or an ICP result, you can get an inaccurate number. And that change of numbers is psychologically a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
It's helpful to, if you're using ICP for certain things, it's helpful to get a repeat test and to go to other companies, different ones, and compare them. But by and large, they are accurate, not necessarily precisely accurate, but they do give you useful information. I don't want to say that they're not useful. They are. I use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have seen hobby test kits and ICP test results that without a doubt had mistakes. Sure. And inaccurate reading. So it can happen.
Yeah, it can indeed. David, have we any more really interesting questions for us, Julian? Julian, I don't want to assume your time here. How long do we have with you? We could talk to you all day and all night quite happily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been going for a bit, huh?
An hour and a half.
5 o'clock. I can give you maybe another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. One more question then, I think. Do you have something good?
Let me see. Can
Mr.
I find?
Luckman?
You know what? Tell you what. We could do is, Julian, have you got anything new from Two Little Fishies in the pipeline? Is there anything coming up? Anything you'd recommend?
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, we do have a few new products that we've shown a little bit this year. You know, one is that sand and cyanoacrylate that I mentioned. That's the hardscapers kit, or the you know, I can't think of even the name of my products. It's terrible. Coruscape and Coruscape Bonder. Yeah. So
Coruscape, yeah.
Right. Terrific. We have a foot for giant clams, tridacnid clams. Nobody even asked about those in this. That's been decades of people have made little bases for giant clams. We have one that made for us by a company that farms the giant clams in China. And when I saw their little clam bases, I thought, this is perfect. I had been thinking about designing something like it for years, but they did it. And I said, look, hey, we'd like to bring that to the marketplace, at least in the U.S. I don't know if we'll get permission to sell them into the UK and to Ireland. I'll find out soon enough. But they're beautifully designed. They make the clam sit upright and it doesn't roll off.
Are they available in EU? In Europe?
So we've just introduced them, and I would need to get permission from them, to see if there's no issue with that exclusivity.
No, we are in the EU, so Ireland is the EU.
Yes.
So we will get from, I suppose, De Jong is where you'd.
De Jong, TMC.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have to check and see whether Two Little Fishies would have the ability to sell it there. De Jong is our customer as well.
Yeah.
We currently have it for the U.S. That one's new. We have a nano aquarium that I'm calling Little.
Oh, wow.
It's been on the drawing board for a long time, and I'm finally going to be to marketplace. They're not available yet. they will be later this year. And along with it will be a whole package. You know that we manufacture synthetic seawater
Yeah.
mix, so there the salt with it. We make the sand as well. There'll be the sand with it. There will have our nanomag as well for
Oh
cleaning
yeah,
it.
cool. Yeah.
Mm.
Another product that is available now that's called Floatscape,
Okay.
and it's an aquascape made with dry rock. That same technique,
Is it
hanging
using the
on
stack rock?
it's using something like stacks. It's really
Yeah.
more Marco rock, so it's not they're not all the same thickness. They're more variable shape pieces glued together with that process, the Corescape and Corescape bonder, and
Yeah.
attached to a background that hangs on the tank and is invisible against the black background.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
So if you look up, do a Google search for Two Little Fishies Floatscape or Floating Aquascape,
Yeah.
you'll see it. We've shown it at a couple of shows already. And they will be available. I think next week is the launch date.
Oh wow.
So that's
Really interesting. We've had a good few people trying to achieve that look in their tanks with varying degrees of success. It's a real challenge without a dedicated kind of product that's put together and tested for the purpose, isn't it?
We are lucky because there is a company here in Miami that builds these things. They they're artists, amazing skill in putting together the rocks using our cyanoacrylate. And so we've basically partnered with them to bring this to market, and we'll make them in different sizes, of course, too, but starting with one that really fits nicely in a 20-gallon cube
Yeah.
tank. So in addition, it's not just a fixed aquascape, it's modular. There's pieces that come off and you can move them around because there's little posts and holes.
Yeah, cool.
And they have holes drilled in them so you can put frags.
That's
into them. So,
great. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing
Anyone
nicer
who's
than be able to slot a little frag post into a hole in the rock.
Yeah.
Ideal.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, that's pretty
perfect.
cool.
So we're very excited about that.
Very good. We have. I love your. I don't know if you can see it there behind us, but your the Two Little Fishes. The algae holder, the nori pouch feeder is absolutely fantastic. I'd love to sit and watch the tangs going at that and getting clearly not just pulling the piece of algae off and dragging it around the tank. They actually get some enrichment from it.
Yeah.
You can tell.
That's the work.
Yeah.
Yes.
So much better than just we've a unicorn tang that's approximately 8 inches long in our 1,000 over there, and he just pulls the entire piece of nori off of anything that we put in and drags it around the tank. And
so it's really good for him.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We offer all the different feeding devices like that. That's been fun. Nobody asked the question you enjoy. Those are things that I developed, and it was great because I use these things and then thinking about how to make that work. So we have the clip, we have the pouch, and we also have the ring, and the sea veggies can be chopped into flakes, put into an auto feeder in the ring, any which way to
and you have
possible.
Julian's thing as well.
Right.
You have Julian's
all
thing.
of it.
Have you seen Julian's thing?
I've not seen Julian's thing.
It's like a big long syringe.
Well,
oh, whoa.
Tell us about your thing quickly, Julian.
Yeah, I must show you. Show you.
That was fun too. Not only in developing that, but also, coming up with the marketing for it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's been great doing that, in the company, starting from this and then spreading all of the
spreading from
things.
there. Wonderful.
Right.
Okay,
cool.
Julian, we won't take any of your time. From myself, certainly, and Davey as well, thank you so much indeed for spending the time with us today.
And thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy man, but really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know everyone out there will have loved listening to you in Ireland. So.
Yeah, definitely.
My pleasure. Yeah, I look forward to visiting one of these days soon.
Yeah, definitely. You will have to come and visit. It would be nice. It would be nice. Yeah.
Ireland's only frag swap events happening
Yeah,
in our
yeah.
shop. Come
yeah,
along.
yeah, we are the only
That's
place to do a frag swap, and we are a small community, but we do have a big. We have a good hobby.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. A loyal following of,
Yeah,
of
we do,
hardcores
yeah.
that really enjoy it. So,
You
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Uh,
keep me posted on dates and for those kinds of things, and someday.
Yeah.
We
You
will
never know.
indeed.
You never know.
We will indeed.
You're usually around Europe at some stage.
It's true.
It is.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
could fit it in when I'm going over. Maybe do a little pit stop and then go.
Yeah. We can work something out of that. Yeah.
We'll stay in touch.
My
Anyway.
my
Thank-
wife would say yes, sure, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Julian. Really, really appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you soon.
likewise. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.